Marcus Green was a man who believed in doing things the right way. He worked hard every day to run his small auto repair shop on the east side of town. It wasn't fancy, but it paid the bills and kept him honest. Marcus had grown up in a neighborhood where trouble could find you easily if you weren't careful. But he stayed out of it. He paid his taxes, helped his neighbors, and made sure to always treat people with respect. One morning, like any other, Marcus got into his old pickup truck and drove across town for a parts delivery. He was running late because his neighbor's baby had gotten stuck in a car seat and needed help getting out. Marcus didn't mind. He liked helping people. But as he pulled onto the main road, a police car suddenly turned on its lights behind him. He checked his mirrors, slowed down, and pulled over without a word. The officer approached slowly, sunglasses on, hand resting near his belt. "License and registration, please," the officer said. Marcus nodded and reached for the documents. "Sure thing, officer." After a few minutes, the officer handed them back and said, "You were speeding, and your tail light's out. I'm going to have to give you a ticket." Marcus sighed. "All right, no problem." The officer wrote him a ticket and told him to get the light fixed within 2 weeks. Marcus thanked him and drove off, thinking nothing more of it, until he saw the court date printed at the bottom of the ticket. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. It wasn't just a fine. He'd have to go to court over a broken tail light. Marcus called his cousin Dana that night. She was a police captain with over 15 years on the force. Everyone respected her, even the bad guys. She knew how things worked, and she had his back. "So they're making you go to court over this?" Dana asked, sounding surprised. "Yup," Marcus replied. "Just a broken light and a little speed. You'd think I robbed a bank." Dana paused. "Which judge is handling traffic court this week?" "Judge Grimes," Marcus said, reading from the ticket. Dana fell silent again. Then she said, "That's not good. Why? What's wrong with him?" "He's old school," she said carefully. "And some folks say he doesn't always treat everyone the same." "Well, I don't plan on giving him a reason to be unfair," Marcus said. "I'll show up, tell the truth, and get it over with." Dana gave a small laugh. "That's why I like you, Marcus. You always try to do the right thing." 2 weeks later, Marcus stood outside the courthouse in a clean shirt and freshly ironed pants. He looked like someone ready to get life back, on track, not like someone about to face a courtroom full of strangers. He walked inside, signed in, and waited for his name to be called. When it finally was, he stepped into the courtroom and took his place at the front. Judge Harold Grimes sat high above him, dressed in black robes, looking like a man who hadn't smiled in years. "State your name," the clerk said. "Marcus Green," he answered clearly. The judge flipped through the paperwork. "Mr. Green, you're here regarding a traffic violation, speeding and a broken tail light." "Yes, sir." Grimes looked up, squinting slightly behind his glasses. "Any prior offenses?" "No, sir. Never even had a parking ticket before." The judge hummed, flipping another page. Then he leaned forward and said, "Well, Mr. Green, it seems like people like you often think the rules don't apply to them." A few people in the audience chuckled nervously. Marcus blinked. "I beg your pardon?" he asked politely. Grimes smirked. "You heard me. You break the law, then expect us to just let you walk away with a slap on the wrist." "I'm not expecting anything," Marcus said, keeping his voice calm. "I just want a fair chance." The judge tapped his pen on the desk. "Fairness comes with responsibility, and from what I see, you haven't shown much of that." Marcus felt heat rise in his face, but he held his tongue. He wouldn't give the man a reason to come down harder on him. Grimes slammed the gavel once. "Fine. You'll pay $300 in fines and perform 20 hours of community service at a local youth center." "What?" Marcus almost shouted. "For a broken light and 5 miles over the speed limit?" "That's my ruling," the judge said coldly. "Unless you'd like to argue with me more." Marcus clenched his jaw. He wanted to say something, but he knew better. He nodded stiffly and stepped away. As he left the courtroom, his heart pounded. That fine was going to hurt. The community service would take time away from work. And worst of all, he knew he'd been treated unfairly. Later, that evening he met Dana at a quiet coffee shop. They hit me with a huge fine and 20 hours of service, he told her. Dana frowned. That's harsh, especially for a first-time offense. And he said something weird, Marcus added, about people like me not respecting the law. Dana's face darkened. That sounds like bias, Marcus. But I can't prove it, he said. I just want this over with. Dana placed a hand on his arm. Let me look into this. Maybe there's a way to appeal. Marcus shook his head. No, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. But Dana wasn't so sure anymore. Something about the way Marcus described the judge rubbed her the wrong way. And if there was one thing Captain Dana Mitchell couldn't stand, it was injustice. Wearing a robe. She decided to go to the next hearing with him. Not as family, but as someone who carried a badge that meant something. Dana Mitchell didn't sleep much that night. She kept thinking about what Marcus had told her, about the way Judge Grimes looked at him, the strange comment he made, and the heavy punishment for such a small mistake. Dana had spent over 15 years on the force. She'd seen how things worked from both sides of the law, and something about this case didn't sit right with her. She decided to do some digging. The next morning, Dana went into work like normal. She was respected by everyone in the department. Officers, detectives, even the chief trusted her judgment. But when she asked one of the clerks to pull up recent traffic court rulings from Judge Grimes, she got a funny look. You investigating something, Captain? The clerk asked. Just curious, Dana said with a smile. Call it professional interest. After a few clicks, the clerk handed her a printed list of cases. Dana scanned through them quickly. Most were standard traffic violations, speeding, broken lights, expired tags. The fines varied, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Then she noticed something strange. Most of the people who received the highest fines and extra penalties were Black or Latino. Some of them had no record, just like Marcus. Others had even less than he did. One woman got community service for a parking ticket. Another man got fined more than $500 for rolling through a stop sign. Dana folded the paper and put it in her pocket. Something wasn't right. Later that day, she called Marcus again. I think we should go back to court, she said. Marcus groaned. I thought we agreed I just wanted to move on. We did, Dana replied. But now I'm not so sure this is just a bad day for you. I think Judge Grimes might have a pattern. Marcus sighed. So what are you saying? That he's racist? I'm saying there's enough reason to question his fairness, Dana said carefully, and I want to be there when you go back. Marcus hesitated. He knew Dana meant well, but he didn't want to stir up trouble. Still, she was family, and if she believed in him, maybe it was worth another shot. All right, he finally said, but promise me you won't cause any problems. Dana smiled. I wouldn't dream of it. A week later, they stood outside the courthouse again. This time, Dana wore her uniform. Dark blue pants, crisp white shirt, badge shining on her chest. She looked like authority itself. Marcus wore the same clean clothes as before, trying to look respectful and responsible. Inside the courtroom, the air felt heavier than last time, people whispered. A few eyes turned toward Dana as she sat down beside Marcus. When the judge walked in, silence fell. Judge Harold Grimes took his seat, adjusted his glasses, and looked at the papers in front of him. Mr. Green, he said without looking up. Back again, I hope this isn't going to turn into a habit. No, sir, Marcus said politely. I'm here to appeal my sentence. Grimes raised an eyebrow. Appeal? On what grounds? Before Marcus could speak, Dana stood up. Your Honor, she said clearly. If I may say something. The judge blinked. You're not a lawyer, are you? No, Your Honor, Dana said. I'm Captain Dana Mitchell of the City Police Department, and I'm here as moral support for Mr. Green. A few people in the room murmured. Even the judge seemed surprised. Well, Grimes said slowly, that's unusual. Dana nodded. Yes, sir, but I've read the records of your past rulings, and I believe Mr. Green has been treated unfairly compared to others with similar offenses." The judge leaned forward. "Are you accusing me of bias, Captain?" "No, sir," Dana said calmly. "I'm asking you to consider whether your ruling was truly fair." The courtroom stayed silent. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Judge Grimes narrowed his eyes. "Well, Mr. Green, do you have anything else to add?" Marcus swallowed hard. He glanced at Dana, then back at the judge. "I just want to be treated the same as anyone else," he said. "I paid my fine, I fixed my light. I don't see why I deserved more than someone else who did the same thing." The judge tapped his hand. "Very well. I'll review the case again." He flipped through some papers, pretending to look busy, but Dana could see the tension in his face. He didn't like being questioned. Not by a cop, not by a black citizen, not by anyone. Finally, he closed the file and looked up. "I will reconsider the community service portion," he said stiffly. "But the fine remains." Marcus opened his mouth to protest, but Dana gently touched his arm. He stopped. "Thank you, Your Honor," Dana said politely. They stood up and walked out of the courtroom together. Once outside, Marcus let out a deep breath. "He didn't change much," he said. "But he listened," Dana replied. "And he knows someone's watching now." As they stepped into the sunlight, Dana looked down at her badge, still pinned to her chest. It was more than just a symbol of power. It was a reminder of duty. And today she was ready to do hers. After leaving the courthouse, Dana couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. Judge Grimes had agreed to reconsider part of Marcus's punishment, but not much. And the way he had looked at her during the hearing stayed with her like a bad taste. It wasn't anger. It was something colder. Something that said, "You don't belong here questioning me." Dana knew she couldn't let it go. That night she sat at her kitchen table with a stack of printouts, court records, police reports, and traffic violation rulings from the past few years. She went through each one carefully, comparing fines, sentences, and the people who received them. She made notes on names, dates, and types of offenses. The more she read, the clearer the pattern became. People who looked like Marcus were getting hit harder than others for the same mistakes. A white man got a $50 fine for driving with a broken taillight. A Latino woman got $250 and 5 days of court-ordered classes. Marcus got a $300 fine and 20 hours of service. It didn't make sense unless you looked at the color of their skin. By the time the sun came up, Dana had a folder full of proof and a new plan. She called Marcus early the next morning. "I'm going public," she told him. There was a long pause on the other end. "Are you serious?" Marcus asked. "Yes," Dana said. "This isn't just about you anymore. This is about everyone else who walked into that courtroom and walked out treated unfairly." "You think people will care?" Marcus asked quietly. "I know they will," Dana replied. "Because justice should be blind. Not blind to the truth, but blind to race," Marcus sighed. "I just wanted to fix my light and move on." "I know," Dana said gently, "but sometimes doing the right thing means stepping into the spotlight, even when you don't want to." Later that day, Dana met with a local reporter named Elena Ruiz, who worked for the city's largest newspaper. Elena had built her career on stories that mattered, not just breaking news, but real change. They sat in a small cafe across town, away from the noise and eyes. "So you're saying Judge Grimes has been unfair to minority drivers?" Elena asked, taking notes. Dana slid the folder across the table. "These are real cases, real people, same offenses, different punishments." Elena flipped through the pages, her face growing more serious with every sheet. "This could be a big story," she said. "It should be," Dana replied, "because if no one speaks up, nothing changes." A few days later, the article ran online and in print. The headline read, "Local Judge Faces Scrutiny Over Unequal Sentencing in Traffic Court Inside." The paper laid out everything Dana had found. Names weren't used, but the facts were clear. The differences in punishment were undeniable. The article also included a short video clip from the courtroom. the moment Dana had stood up and held up her badge. That clip started making its way around social media. People shared it with comments like, "Finally, someone spoke truth to power. This is exactly why we need more officers like her. Justice shouldn't depend on your skin color." Within a week, the story had gone national. Calls started coming in from bigger news outlets. Talk shows reached out. Even politicians began asking questions about Judge Grimes. And then came the response from the courts. An official review was launched into Judge Grimes' recent rulings. An independent panel would look into whether bias played a role in his sentencing. Marcus watched all of this unfold from the sidelines. He still ran his shop, still helped neighbors with car trouble, still tried to live a quiet life. But now, strangers stopped by just to shake his hand. "Thank you for standing up," one man told him. "You gave us hope," said a young woman. Marcus never saw himself as a hero. He just wanted fairness. But Dana kept reminding him, sometimes being fair is the bravest thing you can do. Then came the second hearing. This time the courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back rows. Cameras rolled near the entrance. Everyone wanted to see how Judge Grimes would handle the pressure. Dana sat beside Marcus again, this time with her badge clearly visible. Judge Grimes entered slowly, looking tired. His usual sharp tone was softer. His eyes avoided the crowd, looked at Marcus's file and cleared his throat. "The court has reviewed Mr. Green's case in light of recent discussions," he said stiffly, "and I have decided to fully remove the community service requirement." A murmur swept through the room. Grimes continued, "The original fine remains, but I will note that future rulings will be handled with greater attention to fairness." It wasn't a full apology. It wasn't an admission of guilt. But it was something. As Marcus and Dana walked out, a reporter rushed up to them with a microphone. "Captain Mitchell, did you expect this kind of result?" Dana smiled slightly. "No, but I hoped for it." "And Marcus," the reporter turned to him, "how does it feel knowing your case sparked a bigger conversation?" Marcus looked at Dana, then back at the camera. "I just wanted to be treated the same as anyone else," he said. "Turns out sometimes you have to speak up before people start listening." Behind them, sunlight poured through the courthouse windows, and for the first time it felt like justice might finally be shining on everyone. In the days that followed, the city buzzed with talk about Judge Grimes. People who had once walked quietly out of his courtroom now found their voices. Some came forward with their own stories, people who had been fined more than others for the same mistake, or forced into community service without explanation. One woman even said she was ordered to clean a city park for 3 days over a parking ticket. It wasn't just Marcus anymore. There were dozens like him. Dana knew this was bigger than one case. She started meeting with lawyers, activists, and city leaders who wanted to make sure something like this didn't happen again. She also talked to reporters, not for fame, but to help people understand what had gone wrong and how it could be fixed. Marcus, meanwhile, kept running his shop. But now, every time he opened the door, he saw someone new asking for help, not just with cars, but with advice on dealing with the court system. One day, an older man came in with a worn-out van and a tired face. "I got stopped last week," the man said while waiting for Marcus to check his brakes. "Just a broken light again. Now I've got a fine I can't afford." Marcus nodded. He had heard this story too many times. "Did you go to court?" he asked. The man shook his head. "I heard about that judge. I don't want trouble." "Well," Marcus said, wiping his hands on a rag, "maybe there's another way now." He told the man about the article, the review, and the growing movement for fair treatment in traffic court. The man listened carefully, then gave Marcus a small smile. "Maybe things are changing," he said. Marcus hoped so, but not everyone was happy with what was happening. Some people in the legal system began talking behind Dana's back. They called her names like troublemaker and overstepping. A few even suggested she shouldn't have spoken up in court at all. One morning, her police chief called her into his office. "Captain Mitchell," he said, sitting across from her, "you've done good work here, but some people feel your actions might have crossed a line." Dana sat still, listening. "They say you used your badge as a weapon," he continued. She looked him in the eye. "My badge is not a weapon," she said calmly. "It's a promise to protect and serve and to stand up when something's wrong." The chief sighed. "I agree with you, but the department has to stay neutral. We're under pressure to reassign you." "To where?" "A desk job," he said. "At headquarters." Dana frowned. She had spent 15 years on the streets, helping people, making a difference. Now they wanted to move her somewhere safe, where she couldn't be seen. She understood what this really was, a quiet way to push her aside, but she didn't argue. "Not yet. I'll go," she said, "but only if it doesn't stop me from speaking up when I see injustice." The chief nodded slowly. "Fair enough." A few days later, Dana moved to her new office. It was quieter, cleaner, and far away from the streets she loved. But she didn't let that stop her. She started writing letters to city leaders, to judges, to other officers. She shared what she had learned, urged them to look at their own systems, and reminded them why they had chosen this job in the first place. And something unexpected happened. Other officers began reaching out to her. Some thanked her. Others said they had seen unfairness before but never felt safe speaking up. Now they did. Even outside the courthouse, change was happening. The review panel looking into Judge Grimes's rulings released its findings. They confirmed what Dana and Marcus already knew. There was a clear pattern of unequal treatment based on race. The report didn't say the judge was racist, but it did say his decisions weren't fair and that he needed training and oversight. People called for more than that. Protests formed outside the courthouse. Petitions filled online. Calls came in demanding that Judge Grimes step down. Still, he stayed on the bench, for now. But the pressure kept building. Then came the biggest surprise of all. One afternoon, Dana got a call from a familiar voice, Elena Ruiz, the reporter who had written the original story. "I've got something you need to see," Elena said. Later that evening, they met at the same cafe. Elena slid her phone across the table. On the screen was a video. It showed a different courtroom. An older black man stood in front of a judge, clearly nervous. His crime? A broken taillight. The judge read through the file, then looked up. "This court has been made aware of recent concerns regarding fairness in our system," he said. "Therefore, I will be dismissing this case entirely and referring it to a new program focused on vehicle safety education instead of punishment." The man blinked in surprise. Then he smiled. Dana watched the video twice, stunned. "What is this?" she asked. "A ripple effect," Elena said. "More judges are being careful now. Some are changing how they rule. Others are pushing for new policies." Dana leaned back in her chair, heart pounding. This was it. Not just a win for Marcus, not just a moment in court. This was the start of something bigger. Outside, the city lights shined bright, and somewhere inside Dana, a fire lit up again. She wasn't done fighting, not by a long shot. Marcus still ran his auto repair shop, but now people came in not just for help with their cars. They came to thank him. "You gave us courage," one man told him while waiting for an oil change. "I used to feel like nobody would listen," said a young woman dropping off her car for a brake check. "Now I know someone will." Marcus smiled and thanked them all, even though he still didn't see himself as a hero. He was just a man who wanted to be treated fairly, and stood up when he wasn't. Dana stayed on at headquarters, but she didn't let that stop her. She kept speaking up. She helped train new officers, led discussions on fairness, and worked with city leaders to create a new traffic court review system. She made sure that no one else would face the kind of treatment Marcus had gone through. Then came the day Judge Grimes announced his retirement. It wasn't sudden. He had been under pressure for months, public hearings, media coverage, and growing calls for change. But when the news broke, it still felt like a turning point. At a small press conference, Judge Grimes spoke one last time. "I have served this community for over 30 years, he said, voice steady but tired. "I believed in order and discipline in the law, but I also believe in growth. And I believe it's time for me to step aside so others can lead with fresh eyes and open hearts." He didn't say he was sorry. He didn't admit to being unfair. But he did say something important. I hope those who follow me will learn from what has happened here, that justice must always be equal, that fairness must always come first. The crowd outside the courthouse was quiet after he finished speaking. Some cheered, others simply nodded, understanding that while the fight wasn't over, they had taken a big step forward. Later that evening, Dana met Marcus at the same coffee shop where everything had started. They sat across from each other, sipping drinks and watching the sun go down. Feels like a long time ago, Marcus said, smiling slightly. It was, Dana replied, but look how far we've come. Marcus looked out the window. Do you think anything really changed? Dana leaned forward. Yes, people are paying attention now. Judges are being careful. Laws are being reviewed. Officers are speaking. She paused. And people like you aren't walking into courtrooms alone anymore. Marcus thought about that. He remembered the way he had felt that first day. Small, nervous, unsure if anyone would stand by him. Now he saw how many people had been quietly fighting beside him. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small envelope. What's that? Dana asked. A letter, Marcus said, from a teenager who heard about our case. He opened it and read out loud. Dear Mr. Green, I'm 16 and I want to be a lawyer someday. When I heard your story, I got angry. Not just because it wasn't fair, but because I knew I wanted to make sure things like that don't happen again. So I'm going to study hard, speak up when I need to, and never forget why I chose this path. Thank you for showing me what courage looks like. Jamal. Marcus folded the letter gently and smiled. He's going to do good, he said. Dana nodded. Yeah, and so are we. A few weeks later, something special happened. The city council voted to create a new program called Justice for All. It trained judges, lawyers, and officers on bias, fairness, and how to treat everyone equally in court. Marcus and Dana were invited to speak at the launch event. Standing on the stage, surrounded by reporters, city leaders, and everyday people, Dana looked out at the crowd. This isn't just about one judge, she said, or one courtroom. This is about making sure every person who walks into our justice system feels respected, seen and treated the same, no matter who they are. Then she turned to Marcus. And this man right here? He showed us what happens when someone stands up for what's right. Not for fame, not for power, but because it was the right thing to do. The crowd clapped, some people stood. A few wiped tears from their eyes. Marcus stepped up to the microphone and smiled. I never wanted any of this, he said. But I'm glad I didn't stay silent. He looked at Dana. Because I wasn't alone. And that was the truth. Because justice doesn't just belong to judges or police or lawmakers. It belongs to everyone who believes in it. And sometimes all it takes is one person standing up. For the whole world to start listening.